Good morning.
Good morning. It's always so fun waiting for the transition to tell us that we are actually live.
I'm just proud of us for getting on here on time all the time. I don't think we've been late yet. Proud of us.
Well, I think one of the factors that plays into that is that now it's just two of us that we're coordinating. We don't have guests anymore. So
Well, that and the massive countdown clock that's always in front of my face that I'm like, oh my God, the pressure. It really countdown clocks really speak to my ADHD mind. So perfect.
I love it.
The more urgent, the better.
So it's February, and I broke out a new mug for February, but I got to figure out. Oh, there we go. Almost. And I think it's backwards. Is it backwards to you, or is it's the right way?
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. So that is my message to everybody for the month of love, even though it's always love time in my world, but well, going with the theme.
You show off yours. You show me yours. I'll show you mine. Mine is
the Velvet Moon.
The Velvet Moon crochet. So this is my friend Emily and Gabby. Emily does the crocheting. Gabby does the graphic design, and it's like this fun, iridescent, sparkly, and it's actually
really now big. When you bring it close, I can see the iridescence. That's cool. Yeah.
It I have my other cauldron one, the one that says something about witches or whatever. It's only like this big. So for perspective, this is like a really big mug. So it's got lots of good stuff in here. I didn't fill it all the way up to the top. If I drank that much cacao, I'd probably just pass out, but
mine too is not. This is a very hefty mug, and it is not filled with cacao.
Yeah, no, so it can't be.
There is cacao in it. It's just not full.
There you go.
So what's happening in your world, Graciela?
Oh, I'm just going to tell you right now, I am like so fucking sad this week. Like I am so, I don't want to even say stressed. I just want to say like feeling the weight of the world, And it's kind of interesting because, what we do here is, I hope, to inspire, to give people something else to look forward to. And despite everything, quote unquote, everything happening in the world, right? And there's plenty to choose from. I don't have to be specific on everything happening in the world. And the other day I was just like, man, I really feel like crying. Now, I know, not a big shocker. I cry. I love myself for crying. It's cool. But what's interesting is in that same 24-hour period where I thought, man, I could really use a good cry, but like, I don't have time because I have things to do. So I'll cry later, And I had a coffee with somebody and I said, we were just getting to know each other. And I said, I cry a lot. I feel like I've got this like pent up tears that I need to release. And she's like, oh yeah, me too. And it was right around that, Imbolc, the turning of the wheel, right? The midway point between winter and spring. And I was like, that's really interesting, that two of us feel this way. But again, there's a lot going on in the world, so that makes sense. And then a friend of mine from South Florida reached out to me and she said, I've been releasing a lot of tears lately. And first of all, I just love how she said it. Just those words were so beautiful, the way that she said it. Anyone else? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I just feel like this heaviness, and I keep trying to talk myself into feeling positive, and trying to do all the things, but it's just there, So I kind of felt like, I don't know, if I'm feeling it, then someone else must be feeling it. And I've given myself permission to feel what I'm feeling. And I also know that I'm not going to hang on to it. But if you are okay with it, I would love to read something from this book, Wintering. It says The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Catherine May. And it's a lovely book. I just finished it literally yesterday. and I set it aside, and I thought, man, I got to read some of this to you guys, because I found it so powerful. It is towards the end of the book. It's no spoilers, but it's a really cool sentiment. So it says, this is where we are now, endlessly cheerleading ourselves into positivity while erasing the dirty underside of real life. I always read brutality in those messages. They offer next to nothing. She's referring to like, be positive, stay happy, like just the little blurbs, that little cat, hang in there, It says, there are days when I can say with great certainty that I am not strong enough to manage. And what if I can't hang in there? What then? And I'm just going to skip through the salient, the parts that I think that hit me the most, She says, I'm beginning to think that unhappiness is one of the simple things in life, a pure, basic emotion to be respected, if not savored. I would never dream of suggesting that we should wallow in misery or shrink from doing everything we can to alleviate it, but I do think it's instructive. After all, unhappiness has a function. It tells us that something is going wrong. If we don't allow ourselves the fundamental honesty of our own sadness, then we miss an important cue to adapt. We seem to be living in an age where we're bombarded with entreaties to be happy, but we're suffering from an avalanche of depression. We're urged to stop sweating the small stuff, yet we're chronically anxious. I wonder if these are just normal feelings that have become monstrous when they're denied. There will be moments when we're riding ridiculously high, and moments when we can't bear to get out of bed. Both are normal. Both, in fact, require a little perspective. Sometimes the best response to our howls of anguish is the honest one. We need friends who wince along with our pain, who tolerate our gloom, who allow us to be weak for a while we're finding our feet again. We need people who acknowledge we can't always hang on, that sometimes everything breaks. Short of that, we need to perform those functions for ourselves, to give ourselves a break when we need it, and to be kind, to find our own grit in our own time. And then she goes on a bit, and then she ends with, or the part that I'm going to end with, in the meantime, we can deal only with what's in front of us at this moment in time. We take the next necessary action and the next. At some point along the line, that next action will feel joyful again, and I'm going to stop talking in a minute and switch it back to you, because I know I'm kind of like talking a lot here, but it reminds me of a friend of mine who I love very much, who works in the nonprofit world. And she, in her work sees horrible, terrible sadnesses, every day. And when I was, deep in the nonprofit world, I asked her, how do we cope? How do we cope with so much sadness, And she said that her mentor told her, just look at the person in front of you. Just work with the person that's directly in front of you. And that is what, that's what's going to see you through, and what's going to, at the end of the day, really change the world, So I feel like these two messages are really good for me right now. But yeah, if anybody wants to cry, I'm down. We can make a crying appointment. I'm in it. I don't know. How do you feel?
So it's interesting that you bring all this up. And first of all, like, absolutely everybody needs to feel your feels. Like, that's what's, those are your guiding posts, and letting you know, like, everything's good or something needs to change. And so, this whole, just put a smile on your face and be happy. Like, no, don't. But also, don't get caught up in your shit, and don't get stuck in it. And if you need help out of it, ask for help. And that's, I think that's a big part of what we're doing here, is building community, and know you're not in this alone. And I have a friend who's in the middle of some nasty legal shit right now. And it's really calling me. I just got to reach out and do this, but like calling to create a woman's circle, a prayer circle for her, and, you know, bring the community together. And because I know when we gather in community, we're much more powerful than when we sit alone. And also for her to see that she is not alone. And even though, yes, it's her battle, and we can all support her energetically, which I know will make a difference. And so, yes, feel your feels. And if you need help out of your feels, enroll help, because that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to help each other and serve each other, and cry it out. And then what's next?
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting because there is never a time in my life when I am sad and everyone around me is sad, you know, or I'm happy and everyone around me is happy. It's the ebb and flow is not just within me, but it is within my circle, right? It's like this pendulum of, you know, to put it real basic, joy and sadness, right? Which we all know it's far more nuanced than that, you know. But it never fails. Like I have one friend who is one of my dearest friends, and I know that if the phone rings after 10 o'clock, we're in a crisis, right? So she calls me at 10 o'clock. You know, I leave my bed, I sit on the couch, and we're just like crying and screaming and whatever. And great, I'm the strong one that day. And then 3 months later, I'll call her and I'll be like, that's and she's like, what are you talking about? You're fine. Like, get perspective, you know? Like, and so, you know, the pendulum swings back and forth between us. I'm trying to think whose turn is it to be sad now? I don't know. We've both been happy for a bit, so it's kind of weird. Right. It's like this constant ebbing and flowing of all the different emotions, you know, and releasing them certainly to me is probably my highest priority. You know, I'm not one to hold it in anyway. Like I wish I could, but I'm like B author in the Golden Girls.
The Golden
like,
Girls.
Right. You can totally see it on my face. So why bother holding it in? But yeah, it's just I guess what continuously surprises me is how much comfort I feel in knowing that someone else feels what I feel or has felt what I have felt, you know? So for as much as this entity that, you know, this ministry that we've created here, and you know, I was reading your newsletter early this morning. Kudos to you for getting it out so early. I'm impressed. You actually hit the send button, or do you have it scheduled?
This morning I actually did hit send. Some days I have it scheduled, but
So
I went in and did some editing after I had scheduled it, and I think that unscheduled it. So when I went to check on it, it was like, oh, it's still sitting there. It hasn't gone out. So I did click the send button this morning, but normally I have it ready to go. And there's a lot of thought and effort that go into my newsletters. And so I'm happy to hear people I did already get one response from it this morning. Nice. And I'm curious to hear your response.
No, you know what? I keep telling you, I love their newsletters. They're getting like better and better and better. And I think if you string them all together, you'll actually have a book. But you know, it's hard without writing an entire book, right? It's hard to really encompass all the nuances of life, you know, of emotions and what works for one person and doesn't work for another person. And you know how it is. Sometimes you can hear the message 8 times, but it's not until the 8th time that it fits into your life, you know, not that you don't get it the first 7 times, it just didn't fit, you know, and so today it fits, right? So me, I'm partial to your newsletters. I love your newsletters. I highly recommend to anyone listening. But yeah, it's just it's really been interesting. So and actually this leads perfectly into our question for today. What's a healing practice you recommend for beginners? Go ahead.
Well, and when you were talking about the emotions, and I think one thing that with everything, you know, our world is our teacher. Everything that we see out there is our teacher, and everything that we feel in here is our teacher. And so, you know, there's the rawness of the emotion that, like, what's going on right now, you know, that's making me feel this way. But then, like, what is this feeling trying to teach me? And just examining our inner world a bit more is profoundly healing. You know, having been in the physical therapy realm for half a lifetime, more than half a lifetime, you know, people tend to believe that, like, every physical ailment has a physical source, and every physical problem has emotional roots in it. And so even, like, you know, no, I fell and twisted my knee, that's why my knee hurts. And okay, but time has passed and your knee still isn't healed. Why isn't it healed? Because of the emotions that are in there, and let's examine them and find them. And, you know, I laughed. There was a time, I don't know, I think it was like a 2-year period of time where I had this heel pain that just wouldn't go away. And I had treated myself, my people had treated me, like amazing people in the industry had worked, and it was like, it was still there. And finally I came to the realization, like, everything that was in there was emotional. And it was about me unpacking, like, layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and more layers of emotions. And once my body finally trusted me that even if the pain would go away, I would still work on the things that I need to work on, the pain finally went away. But it took me so long to, like, figure that out. And so for all of us, we can relieve ourselves of so much suffering when we examine our emotions. And, you know, like, yes, you get to feel them, and if you can figure out why it's presenting itself in your life, that is a profoundly healing tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I have for whatever reason, an incredible imagination, and I realized, and I'm sure it's some childhood trauma-based story in there, but my go-to was always like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? If I can survive the worst case scenario, then I'll be fine. You know, it's like a survival tactic. And then I realized, like, man, that's actually pretty sickening. Like, that's why my stomach would hurt all the time, because all I would do was, you know, play out in my mind the worst case scenario and what I would do to survive it, you know. And it's, you know, grateful to my little brain and my little body, like, it's what it needed in that moment, you know, to survive, and that's okay. But having that present moment awareness where, like, wait a minute, what's actually happening right now? And is that even true? Like, is my perception off because I've got, you know, rose colored, black colored glasses on, right? Like, am I tainting my own, you know, view of things? It's really very interesting. You know, when you were saying about falling down, all I could think of was watching my kids play when they were little, and they would fall down, and my son would, like, immediately start crying, and my daughter would, from anywhere, from real far away, she'd be laying flat on the ground. She was so skinny you could barely see her, but then her little thumb would pop up and she would go, you know. Her little hand would pop up. And she was, you know, she's always felt good and been good, and, you know, so I don't know. It's it doesn't surprise me anymore, but it never ceases to amaze me how people with chronic illnesses, people that have been told, you know, you'll never this again or that again, you know, walk, talk, you know, smile, whatever. And they do. And they do, you know, and it all starts with the power of the mind, you know.
We got some good support there on that comment. Thanks, Gio. Happy to see that you're watching us here today. Long time no see. Also, when you were talking about I was imagining, and I don't know if this is where they were, but I was imagining your kids playing outside and, you know, falling on the ground. Of course you're okay. Like Mother Earth has got you. But I think in modern day times, and especially like where you are now, you get much more nature in your life. And I think that that is a huge piece that's missing for most people, you know, just being in the concrete jungle and never being out there and connecting with the earth. And you know, there's a lot of these they're called PIMF mats, stands for pulsed electromagnetic frequency, and that is what the earth puts out. You know, like it makes me laugh a little bit that people are investing thousands of dollars in these mats when really all you need to do is go be outside, put your feet in the dirt, lay down on the ground. Like, and I know if it's hard for some of us are like, oh, the dirt, but truly, like, it is healing. Like, for children and babies, it's like digging in the dirt. That's what builds your immune system. And, you know, any of this negativity that we need to discharge, like getting it, like Mother Earth will literally just suck it right out of you. And so it's one of the simplest tools. Like you literally don't need any money. You just need to go out there and put your bare. And I'm laughing also at, like, I know you're there, and there's another friend that we have that's always posting about the patica sucia, the dirty feet. And I'm like, feet need to be dirty. Like humans were born without shoes on their feet. And
Julietta, that is time and place. That's the issue with pata sucia. Okay. I will educate you. Pata sucia is like when you're walking at the grocery store and you're barefoot. That's not appropriate, in our opinion. Now, if you're outside and you're in a park and you're digging your feet into the dirt, have at it. Enjoy. All of you that go to the beach, perfect. Amazing. The inside of Publix, maybe not. Maybe.
Well, isn't it no shoes, no shirt, no service? I don't know, but.
But yes, no, I agree. I think the hard part is we have, like, there's no natural conditioning. There's, how do I say this? Like, when you're young, you get rewarded for waking up on time, getting dressed, going to school, doing a good job, getting home on time, doing the dishes, doing your homework, doing what you're supposed to do, right? It is the rewards of being in nature are not pointed out. I don't know what the right word is, acknowledged. You feel good. And because you feel good, you're like, oh, I'm great. You know, like it's just magical that I'm feeling great. But we're not giving due credit where credit is due. You know, like that's why I love the Thanksgiving address. It's in Braiding Sweetgrass. It acknowledges every part of nature. Like if you really read it, it takes like 20 minutes to read the whole thing out loud. And they read it before every like major event and things like that. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But it reminds you that all of these things that are functioning in the world without your assistance, actually quite better when you don't get involved, are supporting you in so many different ways that we don't even realize. So I think that's the hard part, is that we're kind of programmed in the last however many generations to step away from nature because we're not acknowledging it. Right now, if we went out every day and, you know, gave a tree a certificate of completion, like you did a great job today, then it would be at the forefront of our minds. But it's not part of our daily lives, particularly in that concrete jungle atmosphere. You know, I will tell you, I have done not a whole lot much different here other than be amongst the trees. And it has made all the difference. It really has. So, you know, that's why I'm so passionate about that retreat we have coming up, because it is exactly that opportunity. Like, I get it. Life is busy. I lived that, you know, concrete jungle life. And that, thank God I didn't live like in New York or something like that. I probably would have just passed out. Like, I do not have the grit to live in New York City. I don't. It's okay. But the retreat is a perfect opportunity to just like go and, you know, rest and ground, and you can be active, you can hike, you can sweat every day if that's your jam, And if you want to just lay in a ball and cry every day, that's fine. We'll just like push your body by the fire, you know, and then we'll push you over into the grass and then we'll push you over by the waterfall. It's cool. I got you. I get it. But just, you know, like, you know, our question, what's a healing practice you recommend for beginners? Be led. Allow yourself to, you know, have beginner's mind and be led, you know. So many of the events that I'm putting on here, just like there, it's a lot of people that have never heard of cacao before and have never heard of chakras before. And, you know, and thank God, like I'm so excited to get those people. I love beginners, right? Because it means you are open, you're open to ideas, you're not rigid in your thinking. You're like, hey, there's something more and I want to know what it is. And I love teaching it, you know, I love nothing like, to me, I always found it uncomfortable when I would walk into a new type of experience and nobody would tell me what was coming. I was like, oh, you want me to drink this? Why would I drink that? I don't know what that is. I much more prefer to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what it feels like, tastes like. This is what it doesn't do. This is what it's not. You know, here's your experience, right? So the first healing practice I recommend to a beginner is enjoy your beginner mind. Like how exciting, right? It's like your first year of college. Everything is cool and great and I'm going to change the world, you know? That's
For sure. And so obviously for us, a beginner practice of healing, cacao is absolutely on the list. And like cacao heals both on a physical level. Like when you look at the scientifically proven healing aspects that cacao has by itself, it's amazing. But then like you add, it has the spiritually healing component on top of it. And it's like, why wouldn't we all drink cacao for breakfast in the morning? But also like it doesn't, you know, I have other friends who their thing is teas, and teas are a beautiful way to heal your body. And in Florida, sometimes a hot cup of tea is not always what you're looking for because it's 95 degrees outside. But especially in the winter, I find myself gravitating a lot towards teas in the afternoon. And I always make sure that it's, you know, being 57, I'm on the other side of the transition, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still hormonal issues that you're dealing with. And so shout out to my friend Shivani of Fusionary Formulas. She has a beautiful hormone balancing tea that has served me so well, and I've shared with so many others. You know, as Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine. And
yeah, I was gonna mention her. I'm like, oh man, Fusionary Formulas has been like saving my ass these last 6 months.
Well, and you know, a lot of this is, you know, going back to, so my email this morning was about taking your power back. And right now we have all been programmed to hand over our power, of our health to medical doctors and pharmacology. And I'm sorry, but they're in the business of making money. They're not in the business of making you well. And truly, we have so much access to information. And I know there's going to be my haters out there listening to me, like, how irresponsible of me, Julietta, as a physical therapist, to recommend this to people. But seriously, do your research and learn and understand. And yeah, don't trust everything that you read on the internet, but really do your research. I can't tell you how many times I have clients that are going to doctors over and over again and getting no answers at all, and end up finding the answers for themselves. Even my mom with her dementia, my dad is the one that figured out that she had Lewy body dementia after going to I don't know how many neurologists. And he just sat and he's like, I know it isn't just regular dementia. And he sat and he investigated and he finally figured it out. And then when he said it, he was like, oh, yeah, I think you're right. How ridiculous is that? But it's so true out there. And so there is so much information out there, and reach out. Like, if you don't know where to start, reach out. I'll be happy to give you lots of ideas.
I do think, again, back to the middle path, time and place, right? Like, there was a time in my life where I needed a little Prozac push to just get me through the phase. And then I was like, okay, I'm done, and, do I regret it? Like, was it worth the, God knows what year of sanity it shaved off my life? I don't know, maybe, but I'm glad it was there. And also I'm super glad that I found other ways, because I couldn't see what I needed to see, how I was in the moment. And I didn't have access to any other tools, and when that passed and I was like, okay, I'm not, because in full disclosure, it gave me horrible, crazy nightmares. And I'm like, this thing is destroying my brain. So that's how I ended up getting off of it after just a couple of months. But in those couple of months, it did give me the clarity to be like, okay, there's got to be something more, and then that's how I found other things and more things. And now, thank goodness, I'm happy to not have that. So, like you said, investigate, and I will say that sometimes when you're in the thick of it, of whatever it might be, investigating feels really heavy, because I don't know, staring at a screen all day is like hard. But that's why we have so many holistic practitioners around us, that you could just call and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, give me a different perspective. What am I not seeing? I think that's one thing I'm really good at, is knowing what I don't know, or knowing that I don't know what I don't know. And just saying like, hey man, it feels like I'm doing it the hard way. Am I? Like, give me some perspective, so anywho, that asking for help, I think, is a good one. You all know we love, meditation and journaling and grounding things. We just published our first digital product, the Living Aligned Journal, which is really great. I love having guided questions each day to kind of get my mind going in that direction. So I'm not just doing like a bitch session in my journal.
Which sometimes can be good, but it's also a place, like, what I love is that it keeps you focused. And, sometimes I'm journaling and I'm just like off in space and like, but if I can have something to keep me focused, I can get much more out of a journaling session than, both are good, both are needed. And, but yeah, having some direction is definitely a beautiful tool to have. Other things, we can't not mention one of my other favorite healing tools that I'm obsessed with, which is crystals. And I don't know if some of you have noticed, but I really started my crystal healing work for others with these wire wrapped pieces that I named them soul candy. Someone said they're eye candy, and I was like, no, wait, they're soul candy. But I haven't posted a lot about them, but I had someone order 4 pieces recently. And so I've been publishing those out there for people to see. Like, yes, I do still make them. And, with everything I do, like, what keeps me going is the feedback that I get from them. And like, over the years, like, so many people, they've requested a piece, whether it was, they were financially unhappy and wanted to, find a new job, or someone that was really, I had one person who like hated getting out on the road and driving, and it just brought her so much distress. And I created a piece for her that she literally took with her in the car everywhere she went. She's like, driving is so much easier now. Wow. And is it the placebo effect? Maybe, but it's like the feedback is just so consistent one after another, how much the piece helped them through their grief, or, you know, the woman that requested these, she was they've just moved to a new home, and she was like, I feel like I need to reset the energy. And so you know, and then we have the malas and the pendants that I make. Like, these crystals are just here to support us. They are. Look at, there we go with your green Tara piece. I love that piece.
Green Tara is working overtime, let me tell you.
But you know, crystals are just another gift from Mother Earth to support us. And you know, again, too, if it's something that you have curiosity in and want to learn more about how it can help you, reach out. I can talk about crystals for days.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm always reminded every time we have conversations like this, I'm reminded of, you know, I'm a Sex and the City fan. And there's this one episode where Miranda is baptizing Brady, her son, and she's not particularly religious. And, you know, she's kind of like, do I do this? Do I not? I don't know if I believe this or that and the other. And Carrie says to her, you know, if you don't believe, it's just a little water, right? So it's like, what's the harm, right? And so I think a lot about like crystals and sound healing, and, you know, when we talk energy and vibration and frequency and all of these things that are unseen, let's just pretend for a second that it's all bullshit, which I absolutely do not think it is. But let's just pretend for a second. You can't tell me that you don't feel better after a sound bath. You come, you lay down, you don't have to do anything. I have, as a matter of fact, tomorrow night, I'm hosting a sound bath at the studio. I'm doing it myself. You lay down and that's it. All you do is you sit there and you listen. I have never in all my years ever seen anybody stand up and be like, wow, I feel worse. No one, right? So, you know what? Like, give it a shot. Try it. See it for yourself. You know, one of the, I was teaching this the other day when I was doing the chakra balancing class. I said, you know, when I first started inquiring about Buddhism and whatnot, someone told me, you know, what I thought was so groundbreaking in the moment they said it to me, which was, you want to learn about Buddhism, fine, I'll tell you, but don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Whatever I tell you, you go and you investigate for yourself. You see if that's true for you, right? And of course, you know, I found a lot of alignment in there, but, you know, the fact that it wasn't prescriptive, that it wasn't like, you know, you have to believe this, and if you don't believe this, then this terrible thing is going to happen, and right? It was more like, look, we have seen XYZ. Here, do with that what you will, right? And so that's the same, you know, theme, if you will, or advice that I would give for any of these practices, right? Meditation, breath work, grounding, crystals, energy healing, cacao, going into nature, affirmations. We didn't even talk about that. Sound healing. You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do any of them, but pick some and try it and see how that feels. And then you write back to me and you tell me how you feel. I just think that that's super powerful, is, you know, beginner's minds. Give it a shot.
And I do. There are so many tools out there, is because what works for one person doesn't work for every person. So you have to truly try something out and see what fits you, what feels good and resonates with you. And you keep using that. Try something, you don't like it, set it aside. It's for somebody else. That's totally fine. The other thing that I also recommend is, something might not fit you today, but that doesn't mean it might not fit you in the future. So if you tried a sound bath tomorrow and you were like, it was okay, but it wasn't really my thing, but 5 years down the road, maybe try it again if the opportunity comes up. Because, you know, I always say, like, things that come to my awareness, they're coming to my awareness for a reason. And so it wants me to check something out, pay attention. And there are absolutely things in my life that when I first heard about it and tried it, I was like, yeah, that's not for me. And then later down the road, they totally became part of my life. So stay open, try different things, take what feels good, set aside what doesn't, and be open to checking out, repeating and trying something and seeing, have I shifted?
I love it. I love it. What a great, juicy conversation we have had today. I am so grateful for our time today.
And if anybody has any of their own healing tips that we didn't mention today, put them in the comments here and let everybody know, because everybody is full of so much information to share. And that's how we serve each other, by sharing. And we'd love to hear from you.
I love it. Well, don't forget to check out the 4 Elements retreat that's coming up in June, right here about an hour away from where I am. So you know me, I'm snobby about where I stay. So the retreat center is gorgeous. The landscape is beautiful. The food is top notch. I'm going to start more huffing and puffing, exercising my lung capacity so that I can be good out on the trail. But I'm super excited about it. And check out that journal that is up and running. What else do we have? We have a cacao meditation. Yes.
Next. Oh, you're just talking about if you're watching this on YouTube, there's tons of resources on YouTube. Graciela recently recorded a cacao meditation. I highly recommend checking that out. Also, I was going to say, when you're talking about the retreat, I haven't gotten them all there, but I have some videos of past attendees and what they have to say about the retreats, and check some of those out. Like if you're thinking about going and wondering if you should or not, listen to what past attendees have to say about the retreats. And they are the reason that we keep doing these, because they shift lives, they've changed lives. I'm looking specifically at a couple members of our community, and what they are manifesting in their lives right now is just insane. And I know if you ask them, what are the important pieces that made all of this come together, I guarantee you that they will say that it's the retreats and doing some of the offerings that we have that have really helped push them forward. So
it's helped me. So listen, even if all this is just for me, I'm good. But I advise you to join me, because it is a good time no matter what. So anyway.
All right. With that, I'm going to wish everybody a magical day.